Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snap Take. Today, we're going to take a look at my very first Infinite deck. Back in the Black Panther season, I played this Sarah Miracle deck and reached Infinite. It's got a key thought in it that we really need to look at in the current meta. A key card that has not been seen, at least for the past season and a half, 2 seasons. That card is Enchantress. Enchantress needs to start coming back into these decks. I'm going to leave this version of the deck up. I'd probably remove Arrow, likely for a 3 like Juggernaut or Polaris now. But beyond that, or maybe even Nova, I guess, beyond that, I think this deck is still ready to perform. It's extremely pool 2 friendly. Basically, all you need is Sarah and a decent 4-drop in order to play this deck. It is excellent. And one of the main reasons is, again, start playing Enchantress again. I'm going to take a look at why as we look through a lot of the meta. Now, there are two meta decks that Enchantress will not help against right now. I'm not going to show them. There's no point. They just don't run enough ongoings. One is the Doomwave deck. Enchantress doesn't really matter to Doomwave. The only ongoing they really play is Mr. Fantastic, and that's nice to get rid of, but it's really not worth the trouble. The other card you really want to be able to get rid of using Enchantress is you would love to do something to Galactus, right? This deck has a weak Galactus matchup, although you can keep Arrow in if you're just sick of losing to it. Arrow still ruins Galactus's day. Enchantress is absolutely useless against Galactus. However, I've got 6 other meta decks up here that Enchantress can help you in the game against. The first is our current Big Bad Wolf. The way these decks are built right now is that they're trying to use Cosmo and Armor to protect 2 lanes. If they can do that, they're fundamentally impossible to beat, right? If they get that big stuff in 2 lanes, it's so hard to beat these decks. Well, A, they don't always see Cosmo, which means they're stuck relying on Armor. Sometimes they don't see Armor, they're stuck relying on Cosmo. But if they're relying on Armor, well, Enchantress says that goes away. You'll have to do that early unless you have an earlier play. So now, ideally, the one card I would add to this, if I could add any card, is Zabu. Zabu letting you play Enchantress and Shang if you don't see Sarah on 6 is really powerful. If you see all of the above and they cost 2 and you can play another 2-drop, you're going to win a lot of those games. Now, you Enchantress Armor, it'll be obvious where they're playing their big thing, and then you just Shang-Chi it away. Assuming that one of their other locations is even slightly weak, that should, generally speaking, win you the game. Okay, great. We can beat Cherry Red Skull with this deck. How about Zabu Surfer? The standard Zabu Surfer is probably going to give you trouble. Fair warning, they stay under Shang-Chi, and they don't really play ongoings outside of the occasional Mr. Fantastic again. Not the most useful. The things you would really like to hit then are Zabu to make their stuff expensive, and the versions that play Wong are extremely susceptible to Enchantress. They will be doing math. Your opponent will be doing math to figure out how many cards they can play using cards like Zabu, and how many bumps they'll get on stuff like Surfer or Wolfsbane, as the case may be, um, along with their Surfer. Now, if they're Enchantress, none of that happens. For this matchup, though, you really are going to want priority, so you need to make sure that you're playing strong early in order to do it. Is it going to win every Surfer matchup? No. Sarah Surfer is what chased the Sarah control decks out of the meta in the first place, but it's still really strong and has a really solid matchup. Lockjaw discard. They get a ton of their power from their Dracula Apocalypse combo, right? Okay, there's nothing we can do about that with this deck. You can throw a Magneto top end. I've seen a few Sarah decks do that lately. It's got a reasonable coolness to it. Fundamentally, if you replace Arrow with Magneto, you would be able to play your Enchantress or Shang-Chi on 5 and then play your big thing to mess up their ordering on 6. It's a good play. It's a very good play. Now, the way they win their non-Draculane is often they drop America in one place and they have a huge Morbius in another. Well, We know how to handle America Chavez. That's easy, right? But that Morbius is often like 16 power in these decks, especially the Lockjaw versions. And with less leech, this deck is legitimately prominent right now to the point where it might be a problem. Well, if you're having trouble with the Morbius end of that, again, Enchantress saves your day. You don't have to waste a Shang. You just drop an Enchantress, ideally in the same lane that you have a Lizard, because they tend to fill that Morbius lane. That Lizard gets +3 strength, assuming they filled that lane. It goes back from a 2 back to a 5, and their Morbius goes from whatever giant number to a 0. Surprise winning the lane. Great way to win lots of cubes. Now, there's always the standard Mr. Negative. There are very few targets in the game, very few matchups in the game that more favor Enchantress than Mr. Negative. They are running Mystique, Iron Man, Blue Marvel, and Wong. It's insane. You get, and Zabu often, you get absolutely bonkers value in this matchup. Enchantress, if you have it, and you can maintain losing priority, which is not always easy. That's the hardest part of this matchup. If you can manage to lose priority and you have Enchantress, do not be afraid to snap. Lastly, we have two very specific decks that come up all the time. The first is the new Patriot. The new Patriot decks that are with Mystique and Iron Man and Blue Marvel are trying to leverage Valkyrie to win lanes. Well, Valkyrie with everything as a 3 isn't winning much, assuming you're killing their bumps or killing their doubling. It's a great way to take a matchup that is absolutely nearly impossible without Enchantress and make it kind of a cakewalk. For this deck, they have to play their Patriot Mystique cards early. They have to get Iron Man out on 5 most of the time in order to get their combos going. Because they have to play these cards early, when you manage to enchant, they are left open or revealed for Enchantress. You don't even really need priority. And lastly, Binks, wonderful content creator Binks, has created this Dino Hawk that is suddenly absolutely everywhere. It's actually messing with my favorite deck a little bit, that Thanos deck, because, well, Darkhawk and Devil Dino don't care at all about my lovely Valkyrie, right? Well, they do care about Enchantress. Enchantress says Darkhawk is 0. Enchantress says Devil Dino is a 3. She beats that 3. She really beats that 0. On top of that, she'll shut down your Mystique. On top of that, you've got Shang for multiples of their targets. She wins this game. It's again, if you can tell where they're going to play it, and very often you will, unless Coulson throws you off and messes you up, you should be able to take care of this matchup. You should be winning. I'm telling you right now, there will be a quick short to show the power of Enchantress, and she's going to, in that short, eliminate a really cheap card. Enchantress is great. Finally, before we go for today, I just want to remind you that if you're following me on Twitter at SnapJudgeCast and subscribed here, you can enter in the comments under yesterday's podcast episode announcement, and this will be retweeted, so all you have to do is follow on Twitter. Write down your favorite thing about the Marvel Snap community. We're trying to promote positivity. Like, sub. Have an awesome, awesome day. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take and an announcement of who wins the prizes.